Okay, we'll go ahead and call us into business.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, indigent business.
Chantel Laulu with Indigent Services. The cases that I have before you this morning were placed in suspension pending final determination of a possible resource. RCA was unable to obtain information in regards to those possible resources, so we are recommending a denial of these cases pursuant to Idaho Code 31350225, as we are unable to determine if Bannock County is the last resource for payment of these requests. This is for case number 2015-0317, 2016-0039, 0042, 0046, 0047, 0088, 0276, 0277, 2017-0023, 2017-0037, and 2018-0145.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we deny the cases as presented this morning. Do I need to go down the list?
I like that.
Okay.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I felt like 8 pens in here. You can't tell me that.
Good motion.
Thanks. I was trying to think of a way to not have to read all those again. Chantel did a lovely job reading them.
I'm still trying to get through the pile of signing, so.
Yeah. Thank you.
The pile.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Todd's not here. Carrie's not here. Looks like
The grant.
Kyle.
Morning, everybody. Kyle Burmester, Public Works Director. Wanted to visit with you a little bit about landfill fees. Our tires have went crazy on our cost to dispose of them. We used to have some different avenues, and we've kind of got a monopoly of. They've been all bought out, and we have one place that Liberty Tire, that we can take them. We're looking into different ways that maybe we could shred tires or do different things like that to maybe save us some money, but we're kind of locked into that. And just so far this year, last year we just tried to break even on these things and maybe have a little bit for our overhead. But last year, our total revenue off of tires from what we charged at the gate was $19,772, and the cost for recovery was $19,041. So we're right there. But this year is a whole different story. Like everything else, it's costing us more and more to get them to take tires, and we can't go to somebody else. This year to date, our revenue has been $7,798, and we've already spent $13,000 on recovery, and probably another $6,500 still sitting on the floor to get rid of. So that's about a 60% hike.
Why
Yeah.
can't we just go cost plus 10% is what our fee's based at?
So it's kind of hard how we have to try to figure it. Is we charge by the tire where they charge by the ton.
How much does an average tire weigh?
And that's the hard thing, is a lot of times they have other waste that they're bringing, and so they just pay for the one tire, the how many tires, and then they scale out for the other waste.
Well, you got 5 different sizes
Yeah.
on the chart. I mean,
Yeah, so you have car tires, which are your passenger, which are cars and pickup trucks, small tires. The truck tires are more like semi-truck tires. And then with the rim, that's that added cost of we have to de-rim them. We do make some money off of the metal, but we still have to have an employee de-rimming them.
Just
and-
take a flat fee of all tires and have industrial, commercial tires, or have others, and others just put it at the highest fee and call it good. I mean, if it's costing you that much money, maybe you should have your tires, and just when you switch your tires out, let the tire place deal with it instead of take them. I don't know what else to say other than if that's just an expense you're gonna have to deal with. Because if we're subsidizing, I mean, just seriously, just take the highest cost. Okay, you want it with a rim? It's $50. You want it without a rim? Doesn't matter what size it is. It's $30.
Well, we're still trying to make it that they don't throw them in the bar pit and stuff is the,
I know. But the problem is it gets to the point where you gotta cover the cost.
and why I think we kind of always have broke it down into a few different categories is because you'll have somebody bring in a little tire off their car, or even like one of them ones that they have in your trunk, and then somebody brings this other bigger truck tire, a 35-incher, and
Swamper.
they kind of, so we tried to differentiate it a little bit like that.
So you also on this, you have scale fees, is that an added?
So that would be an added, that was just something that we had started to see kind of a trend as people come up just to get a scale weight, and we've never had any fee for that. So most scales around are around $5 to get a scale weight. So we thought,
The asbestos, what's going on there? You got 70% increase written on that.
oh, sorry, no, that just meant the stuff I have in red.
Oh, okay, I'm
So, yeah, sorry, not on the asbestos. That's just the stuff in red is, it's been about a 60, so I went with about a 70 down, so that gave us a little bit of overhead.
So with the prices you're charging, would that make you whole based on
That would,
what you've seen so far this year?
yes, so that would make us break even in a little bit for our overhead and building.
Well, but that's what I'm saying is if you just want like a cost plus whatever, then the fee is a floating fee that you can actually just, you don't have to come back every single time it's
Oh.
changing. That's what I'm saying is if you just set cost plus 10%,
So you could still use your per tire fee, but
Yeah.
you just realize where it's at and then adjust it based on that. I can-
because then if it hits, and it takes you a month or two to get back to us or, whatever, that's a lot of,
Well, plus if you take an increase of more than 5%, you have to publish
Yeah,
and
so
hold a
this,
public hearing.
So
which
we-
we're gonna have to
Prevent
with
that.
these.
You will, but
Yeah.
it would prevent having to do that if
Multiple
costs
Yeah.
balance.
Yeah, if we
You
could
do it
have
once,
some
usually the first time, but then after
verbiage
that.
in there
that's it.
that, just kinda like the fuel surcharge, you know, this is what it is, but as fuel goes up, it
Yep.
has to be
And then as
adjusted.
the prices theoretically could come down, then you would automatically track down as well, so I like that, it's a good solution.
But
Yeah.
doing it that way, we're gonna have to stay in contact with them. I mean, it's gotta be posted out there so that people come in one day and it's $8 a tire. Come
Yeah.
in the next day and it's $12
What
a
is the
tire, or
frequency-
whatever.
It's just
I mean,
what we
is the
feel for
frequency
the
of their
day.
Changes. What is the frequency of their changes?
This is the first time I've seen it that drastic. That normally we look at it and we're real close and we maybe change $1, you know, maybe, and
How often are they changing their costs? Have they been increasing it pretty regularly?
it's just been the last year that, because of, I can't remember what the company name was, but we had a couple different ones we could kind of go through and say, okay, you're the lowest price, we're gonna go here. There was one in Brigham City and one by Logan, and they've turned around and bought them all out. And so, before we used to have a trailer that stayed at the site the whole time, and so once that trailer was full, we just paid for the trailer cost. Whatever we could stuff in that trailer, it wasn't even by ton, it was just by trailer, and that was a pretty good deal. We're trying to get back to that with Liberty, but they don't have enough trailers yet. So what we're getting charged is they have a truck drive up, load up, and it's just a pretty high cost. But they get as many tires as they want, so they don't really care.
Well, let's figure out the cost plus 10%.
'Cause then you can
on the
just-
tires, and then set up, so we have our public hearing,
Mhm.
and then we'll go from there.
Did we have any other departments that needed to change fees that then you would just do this once as opposed to have?
I don't know, I figured
Multiple
we're gonna do
hearings.
that during budget anyway,
Well, I
but I
don't-
think this is more of an emergency.
Okay.
We can put it out there that if there is, but
I don't know that emails have been sent out to departments about fees. And traditionally that's been done, but it's been done by
we talked about it
commissions.
Yeah, we'll
a week ago or so, I don't know.
ping Braden and make sure Braden.
Do you want me to follow up with them or do you guys?
If you
want-
would,
Yeah, this one, I'd rather get this one done, because if this one's sucking, I mean, you're half down right now, and you could have a big summer where,
But
Yeah, we're
Scott
just-
had some urgent fees
Hey.
that at least we could get two out of.
well,
It's gotta be.
we can set the date right now for
hey,
the public hearing.
Jason just had a great idea. There's a semi-trailer up at the wellness complex that somebody abandoned.
Mm-hmm. It's been on the county property for years. Let's take it and use it.
But then we'd still have to be the ones hauling it. So it was their trailer, and so they
They would
just
just
swap.
Mm.
They bring an empty, take a full.
Oh, that one, I don't know they want.
What we're looking at also to try to help with costs is, I don't know how many years this will be for, but Franklin County has decided to try a grinder. And so they said that they would, we could do an MOU with them. And they're only taking other counties until they help pay for their grinder or their shredder for like 3 years. But they said we could talk with them too and maybe get
Find out what the options
a
are.
little or a smaller price with them, but
Well,
But I think at this point right now, we set the public hearing date.
yeah.
Make sure we get that done and.
the biggest thing is if our tires are less than somewhere else, that's when we see this big influx of tires coming our way. That's the same thing that Bingham County had a problem with. They said, how do you deal with tires? And they were having all these problems with tires, and we found out they were doing like $2 a tire, and the tire shops were charging $5, so people just say, no, I'll keep my tires, and then giving them to them. So that's what I'm trying to.
Hauling up there.
Turn around and have them.
Yeah. They got smart, and back at that point in time, we were charging just a little bit more. We were like trying to stay the last, your last chance of somewhere to get rid of your tires, not your first and best option, so.
That's why I say cost plus 10%. You'll be not, like,
Yeah, and I can get with the tire
you won't be
companies and see
super high,
where they're at.
but you won't be super high, but what it'll be is you'll be just high enough that you won't have everybody showing up.
Okay.
So, do you need a motion on that?
It'll have to come in a resolution, or they'll have to prepare the document.
Okay?
Okay.
Thanks, boss.
Thank you.
All right, Todd?
That's a good use. Morning.
Good morning.
There's two in each one. Okay.
There are enough for,
Two in each one.
So they've got them, so those are just the,
Two to each.
but who do these need to go to?
just,
Nancy and the commission?
yeah.
And Nancy needs one.
You guys killed more trees?
So,
I think we've got ours.
Yeah, Nancy just gets it.
Ready?
all right.
All right, so Todd Mager with Bannock County Juvenile Justice and Matt Olson, the Executive Director of Bannock County Juvenile Justice. We're here today to request the approval to submit a grant application for the Safe Teen Assessment Center grant from the Idaho Department of Juvenile Corrections. The grant is a $6.5 million grant that the Department of Juvenile Corrections put out about a month ago for the application or implementation of a Safe Teen Assessment Center. And I thought before we got started on this, I would kind of give you a background and a quick history of our intake and diversion unit within the probation department. So the first page we'll look at is the Bannock County Juvenile Justice Diversions and Probation Intakes page, which is the colored graph. If you take a look, you can see that in 2004, our probation department was we realigned it to include an intake and diversion unit with the models of change, best practices for juvenile probation, which was putting in diversion programs to help keep kids from entering the juvenile justice system and being put on probation. But as you can look, from 2008 through 2021, we've diverted roughly 60% of the cases through diversions. That means they've been processed through the court, screened, and determined that they're low to moderate risk first-time offenders, and they're diverted without being placed on probation. In the intake and diversion unit, we currently have 2 full-time staff and 5 part-time staff. And so when you look at the cost savings, the diversion diversion programs have put in place for the juvenile justice, it's pretty effective, and it's been really good. One of the things that has recently happened in legislation is they've put a rule in place that says that youth cannot be diverted pre-adjudication, which is what we're currently doing. And so as you look at these 60% of cases we're diverting, we're not supposed to be diverting in that way. So that's something to take a look at. So as part of the intake and diversion unit, our staff screen all the petition cases that come through court. We evaluate based on risk, whether they qualify for a diversion. We provide recommendations for the courts, and then we help handle the initial admit-deny hearings. We also have 5 diversion programs based on what risk those kids and families are being referred to court for, and if they're able to be diverted, they're diverted to those programs. As part of the intake and diversion unit, I review all cases that are placed in detention every morning. I screen those kids that aren't on probation. I work with the families to set up a safety plan and determine if they should be placed in detention or not. And then if they are able to be released, I'll set up a pretrial release plan, review it with the courts, and then supervise them until they come back to court. So when you look at the petition offenses, you can see that, it's the next page, you can see that 25% are status offenses, and an additional 13% are tobacco cases, 2% are alcohol, and 12% are nuisance, and then there's a misdemeanor property that's 11%. But when you take that piece of the pie chart and realize that most of these youth could be diverted, will be diverted through our court diversion programs, and that an assessment center would actually provide services for those youth and keep them from going to court. So that's something to look at as we go on to discuss this. The next page is the detention population. Which, as you look through the 6 counties, in 2021 there was 5,854 stays in detention. So that's you know, if there was 10 kids in detention on January 1st, that's 10 kids. If there were 17, that's 10. So that's a pretty high number when you look at it. So with that said, the next thing I have is our intake and diversion unit statistical report. And basically what I've done is I've put the different diversion programs we have in here. You can kind of see the different programs, how many they're serving. There's also the petitions that have been reviewed. As you can see, we're probably averaging around 800. 2020 was a off year because of COVID and kids were on lockdown and not out getting in trouble. Okay, so the intake and diversion unit right now is working in the Juvenile Justice Center. However, with the Safe Teen Assessment Center, the theories behind that. Okay, so when kids come in to our center, we're screening them before they get there. We're meeting with them before court. After court, when they're placed on a diversion, we're then bringing them into the office. We're putting resources in place and creating case management, and doing assessments and sending them out in the community to find these services, and then they're coming back with them. The theory behind a Safe Teen Assessment Center is there'd be one point of contact. So we would review those citations as kids come in. The citations would be funneled through the assessment center so that we would have an intake process where we sit down. There would be a specific screener that's evidence-based, it's validated, that takes 15 minutes. It would give us risk levels and all the different domains of areas from basic needs to, you know, criminal, mental health, substance use, school, education, health, mental health. In 15 minutes, we could then refer them on to assessments, depending on what those assessments are, and then create a case management plan and talk to them about diversions and possibly divert them in the assessment center. So there'd be one point of contact. There would be community collaboration, children's mental health, child protection services. We talked to Fort Hall, the education liaison with the tribe that works with the Native kids here in our population, and they would all be located in the center, and we would set up referrals for those community members that include schools. So I guess what I'm trying to say is right now, with what we're doing in the intake and diversion unit, if we were to apply for this Safe Teen Assessment Center grant, the services that we're doing would continue, and we'd be looking to reallocate our staff to the assessment center and continue on with the work we're already doing, but it would be more effective and efficient, and it would increase positive outcomes, I believe, for these families. So, do we need to clarify anything on that.
No, I think the other big savings is if you can save all these kids being petitioned to court and all the expenses at every stage in the court process, even from arrest to petition filings to the initial hearings, we would expect a significant reduction in the amount of kids that would need to go through that formal court processing, saving money in that regard as well. For the prosecutor's office, for the public defender's office, for court clerks. And as Todd talked about, with IDJC taking post-petition diversion off the table with the new legislation, this is a great resource for us to be able to actually screen kids, many of them the same day. So, but with these kids from a developmental standpoint, we need to get them into services and resources as quickly as possible. This would allow us to screen a lot of those kids the same day and get them into the resources much quicker, so that because they're not waiting for the next court date before we have really the authority to get them connected to those assessments and resources. So
And that's-
it'll speed up the process.
That was my initial thing with the pie chart, but I forgot to put that in. But when you look at that pie chart, 60 to 70% of the cases we deal with could be processed through that assessment center and put resources in place without clogging up the court system and detention.
So the grant application is for 1.2 million. What's the obligation to the county?
So the obligation for the county would be, so as part of the proposal, and I can go through the budget real quick, but as part of the proposal, we looked at the misdemeanor probation building, that 115-year-old structure. When it was empty, we went over and thought about, well, could we use this building, use some funding to remodel it, create a trauma-informed, neutral, safe environment that is engaging to families. And as we punched in numbers of what needed done and looked at things, the thought came to mind, like, could we demolish the building, build brand new, and go from there? So I think the obligation initially from the county would be to allow us to have that lot and demolish the building, and that would be included in the cost of the grant. So it would be to work with this with that lot and give us that space initially. There may be, as I look through the grant, and I can go through you want me to go through the budget real quick with you, Terrell, so you can kind of get an idea.
It's okay. I'm tracked. I was just curious.
What would be
exactly.
the ongoing commitment?
Yeah.
So the ongoing commitment would be obviously maintenance and operational costs, lights, water.
Which we're already paying on that facility.
I think as I wrote the grant, one of the things that would happen would be there's a screening tool that we would contract with, and in the grant I wrote into it for 900 assessments. The assessments are about $5.50, and then there's a $400 yearly maintenance fee because it's all online. So in looking at that, it was $4,900, and that provided 900 assessments. I think that would probably get us through the first 2 years, and then after that, it would be, I'm guessing, we'd need 300 assessments and the $400 fee, so it'd be, roughly $3,000. But I think that when we look at when we look at who would be involved, I've reached out to the other county probation offices, prosecutors, and schools, and all the counties would be interested in doing this project with us, and they could do it through satellite offices or by sending their parents to the assessment center in person. If they couldn't do it, we could do it over telehealth and provide them the screenings, assessments, and recommendations for case management.
Do you forecast any growth in staff requirements based on demand or expansion of services?
So when I look at, we've done quite a bit of research with other assessment centers that have been put in place in other counties. And what's happened in those counties and jurisdictions is that several of them were set up similar to how we are, where we have our intake and diversion unit in the probation office. and they moved their intake and diversion unit to the assessment center. And they did need more staffing at the assessment center. However, because of the load they were taking off the probation, they just relocated their probation staff to the assessment center, is what they've done. They didn't need as many probation officers.
So if caseloads go down for probation officers as a result of this, I think the opportunity, each year is to review our staffing load, look at what the needs are, and the possibility becomes to expand the hours that the assessment center is open and can provide that service potentially based on the number of staff that we may be able to reallocate based on probation caseloads. So.
And then are there any additional revenue sources available to help support this going forward?
So when I look at the possibility of becoming a Medicaid provider, first off, we could become a Medicaid provider and be reimbursed for the assessments. However, when you look at the community collaborations with children's mental health, child protection, the school districts, and I said private providers, there was another one. Well, and Yes Program and Liberty Health. I feel like there are enough resources in the community to bring that in-house and have that warm handoff for the assessments. And so to become a Medicaid provider, I think, and do the assessments would be, I don't know that it would be cost effective. And right now, I feel like the resources are here in the community. We've had several meetings. We've reached out to individuals. We've provided letters of support. There should be more coming in before Friday when this is due. But I think the whole process of creating an assessment center, I think we're looking more at cost savings more so than a revenue generator. And I don't know that we want to get into the business of trying to generate revenue to provide these services that are already available in the community.
That'd be competing with private sector too.
I do think it's important that the commission's aware that there's a revenue impact on when you look at cases that we have diverted through court diversion right now. There's a $100 diversion fee. Those are all post-petition diversions, which again will go away. So we wouldn't have that revenue anyway, but we've had it in the past. But going forward, we wouldn't have it. If we are able to divert a number of kids who would have previously been placed on probation but didn't need it, there's a $25 a month probation fee associated with that. So as we see petitions to court reducing, as we see caseload reducing, we'd see a reduction in our funding that we use for operational expenses. However, I think some of the things that we're doing to offset that, first of all, one of our biggest expenses is treatment for juvenile sex offenders. We're now having providers bill IDJC directly as opposed to going through us, and we reimburse, and then we seek reimbursement from the Department of Juvenile Corrections. We pay about $12.50 per juvenile psychosexual evaluation right now. We pay for that out of those probation fee accounts, estimated $20,000 for 2023. Department of Juvenile Corrections is considering allowing us to access funding they have that we're already accessing for treatment for assessments. So if we can offset some of those expenses, even though I anticipate from our operation costs, we have shifted almost all of our operation costs to these trust funds for years, and I think we saved the county a lot of money, but we would have to shift some of those, we would lose some of the revenue in that process, and so we need to reevaluate what operating costs we have going forward. But I think historically we've always done our best to try to manage those costs and save those, the funds that we can, and right now we have a surplus in there, so. But I think the county needs to be aware. The other issue is House bill that was introduced by Representative Erickson this year looks to remove all fees. Now, where that didn't go forward, he anticipates keeping it going next year. So we may lose that anyway. His commitment as a county will be made whole in that process. But I know that there's some cynicism with that. But those are some operational costs going forward that we would save a lot of money on one end, and it would cost us a little bit of money comparatively on the other end. But if we can reduce caseloads for the courts, for the prosecutor, public defense, for the clerks, and do the right things for families in the meantime, which is get them to services quicker, without having to go through all that formal court processing and all the rules. And, we don't want to criminalize status offenders. We don't want to criminalize people that have mental health needs or acting, or who are disruptive at school because of untreated mental health, or that they need more intensive mental health. So even though there'll be some reduction in revenue, we think it's offset by all the benefits, some financial and some just outcome-based.
Yeah, and when you look at well, I forgot what I was going to say. Sorry.
Well, I'm all in favor of this. I think we move forward with it. We got to make sure, as we move forward with Nancy and the comptroller, that we're talking what we know about dollars and our responsibilities. Everybody's on the same page in that manner.
The big problem you're going to run into is looking at the Lander lot, I don't actually think it's big enough. I pulled the city standards for building and the size of the building, standoff, what they're required for parking and some other things, and I don't actually think that building that they're going to allow. The building, because you have to have one parking place for every 200 gross square footage of the building. You have to have what they're going to require. You can't just take the exact print where we're at because we're tearing it down. They make you landscape around certain things. They make you do so much parking. They make you do so much. The city has some really crazy standards that way, and I don't know if it's big enough.
So I've kind of staffed this with Dan Kendall, and have you been through this?
Yeah, that's actually what I was pulling off of.
Yeah, so when you look, and I don't know where he got his information. He's got a picture of the existing building, and then a picture of where the new building would go. I believe that he did move it to that corner. He changed the location of the building. You can see yellow on that last page there is where the...
Well, that's what I thought. Dan actually talked with the city and stuff, didn't he?
Well, he got permission to talk to the city.
Oh, okay.
And I haven't talked to him since that day, so...
Because I thought we'd had that discussion that Dan was going to talk to the city.
Yeah.
So I mean, just as I look at it, by the time you tear down and do all this other stuff, what I'm saying is that lot might actually just be better just to sell the lot and go sell the building and sell the lot and go try and acquire a piece of property or find something a little better. Because the problem is even just waiving the fees, the dump fees, just having somebody go in and tear that building out, that's going to be fairly expensive.
That's a question I had. Are you sure that in the grant it's allowable to use the monies to tear down and not just rebuild?
So Christy contacted me yesterday. I was like, well, I better check on that. So we did contact the grant manager, and she said it fits under the gutted.
Oh, perfect.
Gutted section. So
We panicked on that one.
yeah.
I mean, that's just the questions that we just want to make sure is that, hey, we got this grant, and then we go in and oh wait, that lot's not actually big enough to do what we want to do. And that's the one thing is we want to make sure that is.
I know when we had discussed it with Dan, we went over and walked around, we were looking at different options, and he was aware of the square footage, the parking spaces, and went back and did some research and came up with this.
Okay.
And the other part of that is we'll have to find space for those that are now occupying.
Right.
Which.
So, but I still think that this is
you
a
put
good
forward
deal
and you see if
move
you can get it,
forward.
and if you get it, then it's just make sure that last thing you want to do is go vertical and add another story on top of that, because that will just blow your budget.
We looked at that, and there wasn't parking spots to do that, so.
Okay. I'm good. All right.
Okay.
We actually need a signature then?
We do, and the grant itself, I was trying to get it on Thursday, but sounded like we wanted a light load workload Thursday. So the grant itself is a rough draft. I've got to go through and add some performance evaluation stuff and do some punctuation and spell check stuff. So the front page is the
bring it back
one that
to
you
Tuesday.
signed, and I can.
Well, actually, for signature only, we could do it Thursday.
Well, you could just, if everything's good, we could just make a motion today and say upon the review and approval of the chairman has authorization to sign.
That's fine too. That's fine too.
That's
Okay, and then I'll just contact you Thursday.
So moved.
Yeah. Thursday from,
Here,
I have
this,
health board meetings Thursday, so.
here's a motion for you, Mr. Chairman. I move to approve the Safety and Assessment Center grant application upon review of the chairman for corrections and authorize his signature at his convenience.
We have a motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Todd, do you need anything from me?
I need a resume, and I think that's it.
Okay.
All right. Carrie,
I should stick around.
Did you see this?
Yeah. There, scroll.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, Kerry Hong, trial court administrator for the record. I'm here today to request the county support in declaring a declaration to honor the public service of the Honorable Brian K. Murray. As many of you might know, Judge Murray is retiring July 1 after 28 years as a judge. And I'm distributing the resignation letter that Judge Murray submitted. A lot of Judge Murray's leadership and vision over his years of service as a juvenile justice judge hasn't only served the county of Bannock, but also all counties in our judicial district and really all counties in the state of Idaho. Judge Murray is recognized statewide as a leading figure in child protection, juvenile justice, and the improvement of the situation of our families to empower them to raise their children. In recognition of this, we'd like to propose renaming the Bannock County Juvenile Courthouse to the Brian K. Murray Juvenile Justice Center. We would use court facility trust funds to pay for this signage and leave a physical representation of Judge Murray's lasting legacy for the families and the community within our judicial district.
Mr. Chair, it would be my honor to make a motion to approve this request.
have we ever done this before? That's my, on any buildings, anything else?
Mr. Chair, the only personal dedication I know of is up on the third floor, courtroom 300. The courtroom that Judge Nass is in right now is the Peter McDermott courtroom.
Okay.
And upon Judge McDermott's retirement, it was renamed in his honor.
And I have no problem doing this. I just want to do it the right way, because I've seen other fields and stuff dedicated, and then nothing happens. So I want the follow through. I want the sign. I want
Yep.
make it appropriate for what we're doing, and not just, oh, well, congratulations, that building over there is named after you.
And Mr. Chair, I spoke with Dan Kendall about it, and also Jeff. They recommended that I work with Sign Up to match the style and size of the lettering that's currently in front of the building for the Region 6 Juvenile Detention Center. And so there's space immediately above that where we wouldn't take down the Region 6 Detention Center signage, but just above it add the Honorable Brian K. Murray Juvenile Justice Center or Juvenile Justice Courthouse. We're still fine-tuning that little bit of language on it.
Okay, so we have a motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Appreciate the support.
thank you.
Oh yeah, it's a secret, even though this is a public meeting. We'd like to have a little surprise, and of course, when we have Judge Murray's reception, we'd like to kind of invite everybody over to unveil it as much as we can. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, looks like Nancy Allen.
Well, let's take Nick first. Nick is here with the search and rescue grant for a vehicle and some extrication equipment. They had completed the application and I just reviewed it for them and got it on the agenda. So
Cool.
the matches, or their portion is minimal on.
Okay. Well, this is the first time we've seen this, so tell us a little bit about it.
Okay, so we've applied for this grant in the past. This year, we're looking at getting a new vehicle. The grant provides a cap of $75,000 for a vehicle. Our plan, we have three main search and rescue vehicles. We have Rescue 1 that is stationed up north. That was, we received that off a grant, I believe 4 or 5 years ago. We have Rescue 2, which is down in the South County. That's one of our oldest trucks. It's a 2011. It has over 100,000 miles. So our plan with applying for a new truck would be setting this new truck up, if we receive the grant, to be like Rescue 1. We would either sell or donate Rescue 2, and the new vehicle from the grant would be the new Rescue 2 down south. And we would use, Rescue 3 is our third truck. That's our oldest one with the mileage. That truck hauls our equipment. That's stationed here at the sheriff's office. That's the one we would get rid of. And this new vehicle would replace Rescue 2 down south, and the old Rescue 2 would just haul the trailers because that has the least amount of miles on it. As far as the equipment, we've received several tools the last several years to update the extrication equipment for search and rescue. The benefit of this is the old equipment that we're slowly replacing runs off hydraulic hoses. It's very bulky, heavy. It's very time consuming to get set up. The new equipment that we're starting to replace is battery operated, no hoses. I mean, it's basically ready to go as soon as search and rescue gets on scene. So the extrications, I think last year we had about 18 calls for extrication services. So it's kind of, you never know year by year how many you're going to get, but it has been a big time saver and getting people cut out with this new equipment. I don't know what else you need to know on it.
Questions?
I'm good.
I just, on those extrications, are most of those on the freeway, or where are they at?
A lot are. We had one last month that was on out by Lava on Blazer Highway, a pretty bad one, and they needed to be extricated out of the vehicle. So it just depends. I mean, a lot are on the interstate. As we have several certified members that receive training and are certified to operate that equipment, and they have certifications for that. We do not do extrication for the cities because they have the fire departments, but for anywhere in the county, search and rescue is called upon if there's any extrications outside of city limits.
Okay.
We've also provided letters of endorsement from all the Income, Lava, McCammon, Aramo, and Downey.
A quick question on the match for the vehicle. If the vehicle comes in at $83,000, have you guys built into the sheriff's budget the match?
And that, see, when we, obviously the prices have gone up on everything considerably. The way we would like to set it up, we would have to come up either out of search and rescue budget or possibly $8,000 to get it set up the way we would like.
You've got donations in the past.
Yes, we've gotten donations in the past, and another thought, I don't know if this works, would possibly being able to get the proceeds from selling one vehicle to help cover that cost. I don't know if that's possible, but that was one of my thoughts of covering that cost.
That can be, in the past, when you sell a vehicle, the proceeds have to go to the general fund.
Mhm.
But the commission could put those monies into the sheriff department, and then we could utilize that for the match. I just want to make sure that the match is budgeted for, so that we don't get the grant and then have to find funds later.
Yeah.
But we haven't started the budget process, so as long as it's going to be included or we have a plan, then.
So my question is, we've separated search and rescue from ambulance and stuff, and the conversations that you're having right now about other vehicles and where to put things. Do we need to have a conversation so that these kind of communicate better together. If we're applying for a grant here, are we taken away from an ambulance grant, or are they this, you know, are they out of the same kitty?
I don't know the answer to that, and at this point in time, based on the conversation I had yesterday with Chief O'Hearn, I don't know if we'll need to have a new ambulance. per
Okay.
se.
We've had them conversations, and
I don't
Not
know
a-
why we wouldn't put in for both and just take the luck of the draw. And if we get one, we get one. And if we get an ambulance, great. And if we get rescue vehicle, great. And we don't have to put in for the rescue vehicle next year.
well, part of the thing I'm just saying is, are we talking search and rescue, talking with ambulance and
Oh, yeah.
our other emergency response, so that we're all kind of on the same page and headed the same direction of what's necessary and best for the
Well,
town,
I
you
think
know?
some of the vehicles too, and this is something that we really should probably look at because ambulance falls, those vehicles are owned and operated underneath us, and some of those grants is, some of those vehicles we should be looking at when we're rotating things in and out, is to make sure that you guys are not getting a truck that's a 2011, and even if you don't have a year when you're getting a new vehicle that we're purchasing, you might be getting vehicles rotated through that are better than what you have. I mean, that's the big one that I look at, especially when we have vehicles from the sheriff's office and some of that other stuff. That's what we want to file in and out with.
Sure.
I mean, that would just be my thing too, is to make sure that you guys are getting taken care of.
Well, if you guys just have like the main vehicles and then all of the volunteers provide their own
Yes, volunteers
to respond, right?
will respond, and
And we can
volunteers
manage.
will take the rescue trucks. Rescue One's currently, we keep it parked at North Bannock Fire District, kind of central area, so whoever, when the page comes out, whoever's closest,
Is there.
they'll respond there and drive that, and then the rest that we need will respond with their personal vehicles.
And that's what the main budget of search and rescue is. The 26,000 is just to pay the mileage for those individuals. That's what it's traditionally been used for, maybe a little bit of supplies.
Mileage, supplies, equipment, things like that. So with the limited budgets, it's nearly impossible to budget for a new vehicle or any
Yeah.
other type of equipment.
Well, I just, like Christie mentioned too, we've had some grants that have come up that fell short in their funding, and we've ended up paying, so I want to make sure that we identify the sources of any extra funds that need to be there.
And I've made a note so we can make sure that's included in part of the budget. What's the award on this? Do you remember? When we get awarded? When we know?
The cap on the vehicles?
No.
The when is,
Notice of when we
Award
get, if we know that we've got the grant, say in September, then we know to include this. If the grant doesn't get accepted,
I think it's
Then-
this September, it's the same time as the, it's the same grant pool, it's the same thing that comes out. But,
just, that's when we have to know we have the money.
When we have to know, okay.
so as soon as you know, if you
Yeah.
find out you got it, just let us know.
Right.
Okay.
But we can include, we could even budget 10,000 for match, and then if other resources come up, like the sale of the vehicle,
Yeah.
we just won't use the $10,000.
Yeah.
We could use those funds instead.
Just as we go through them,
Yeah.
we're going to identify from now on.
And I've got, like I said, a note on this that we'll discuss it when we discuss the sheriff's budget.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the grant submittal for fiscal year 23 EM Save grant application as presented for search and rescue.
We have a motion, all in favor say aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner, there's also a letter of support in there.
That's what we're actually signing right now. It isn't the grant.
There should be a signature on
Signature
the
page,
grant
whatever we need to
Like I
sign.
said, for
as well.
Okay. Sign everything that's in there.
We'll find that, but,
Page 13.
okay. The one with the tag is the letter of support. All right, you're still up, Nancy.
Five. So the state had some legislation passed for bridge repairs, and they have quickly put together a program for jurisdictions to apply.
Mhm.
100% of it will be covered, even the planning and administration. We simply just had to prepare applications on up to half of our bridges, which we have 3 that were eligible.
So this is the money that came from surplus monies in the state for bridge repair.
Yep, so they have a map system that you can look to see what your county has that would be applicable for this program, and we have two that are in a fair condition because one has a bridge deck that got a hole in it. That's the Sublet Bridge right out of Aramo. We repaired that with a metal plate, but we're looking at trying to get funding to get a new deck put on it. And the other one is the Virginia Bridge that's on Hawkins Road. It's in a fair condition because of it's got weight limits on it, and one of the concerns with that is just from paving over it a while back and stuff that made that have to have them limits, so there could be some minor changes did or more, but as Nancy said, she did a great job with putting the two applications together, and we're gonna hopefully get some funding to get them fixed. Normally, a bridge programs as they come out, it's like $100,000 that you can apply for. Where this is being this new application, it could be more than that and pay for it all needed.
So what other bridges do we have in the county?
We've got quite a few, but it's just the ones that are highlighted in their map of it's got to have something that puts it into like a fair condition, not a good condition. And we actually, for our county, are doing very well, and we've only got these couple.
The bridge on Rapid Creek going up by the new church. Is that in your map at all?
The one that goes the Port or but
Goes right across Rapid Creek right
yeah.
there.
These are the ones I believe that we
think
had to
it's one of
submit,
our-
because I saw this list, I saw these bridges back when the governor's office started putting this out. And these
It
are
all
ones-
depends on if it's a culvert. I'd have to look at that one again to see if
I think it's a
that
bridge.
one's in our, if it's a bridge and it's over 20 foot, it's in our system.
But
And
there's
they,
just a lot of residents now up that
Yeah, there's a
road
ton of traffic.
compared to what it used to be.
yeah,
I just,
and it's only gonna get more.
yeah. Anyway, it just,
Well, and something like that would be on our regular bridge, what we applied for. This is just on the certain ones they have highlighted as
Failing.
This is for this plan
From
failing.
IPD inspection reports.
Yeah.
But all our bridges get, the state inspects each year and stuff like that. But something like that would be a good bridge to look at too.
motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the Idaho Local Bridge Program grant applications and authorized signatures presented.
Motion, all in favor, say aye.
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 Commissioners, as part of that, there's an MOU in the packet that needs signed to allow the state to work with us, and they requested a resolution verifying that that MOU was presented in an open meeting.
That's resolution 2236.
Yes.
I hate doing that. I never like it to be pre-assumed that we sign something, when we sign one thing one day and the resolution on the exact same day. But under these circumstances,
Yes, applications aren't actually due till May. So do you want to wait on the resolution?
I'd rather wait on the
Yeah, bring it
resolution.
next
I just hate us signing the resolution the same day that we talked about it for the first time.
Well, as good as you guys are for preparing it in anticipation, I just, yeah,
One of my pet
It was
peeves.
just part of their application package, so I just,
no.
You're efficient, thank you. All right.
so are you waiting on the MOU as well?
Yeah, let's sign them at the same time. Like I say, if it's signature, it could be on there for Thursday, but, or next Tuesday.
When are they due?
June 8th.
Let's just do it next Tuesday.
Okay. All right. Okay, that was your items?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Shanda?
Morning, Commissioners. Shanda Crystal, Purchasing and Economic Analyst. I have 2 items before the board today. The first one is a notice of publication for the Cell 4 Phase 2 landfill cell expansion liner up at the landfill. We are looking for excavation and the installation of that liner up there. This is asking for people to bid on it. Great West Engineering is going to run the bid process for us, and we're just publishing, and we'll have the bids back before the board here in a couple weeks.
Okay.
And this is completing that excavation that we talked about and everything? Okay.
Continuing on with where we terminated from before and then adding the liner to it.
Good.
Motion?
Mr. Chair, make a motion that we authorize publication as presented.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Perfect. The second item I have before the board is professional services contract for a conflict counsel for James Chenault. That was sent to him last week. He has reviewed and signed it and sent it back to the commissioners for final approval and full execution.
Mr. Chair, make a motion that we approve the contract for services as presented.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 And get it done quickly.
I was going to say that does go effective as of today, and so I'll contact Brandy and Miranda and let them know that James is ready to be in that docket to start receiving cases.
Okay, thank you. All right, Julie?
This doesn't have a signature here for me.
No, there's just a part, and then there's this one.
Hi.
Welcome.
Aye.
Do I have to state my name?
Yes, please.
Julie Hancock, Elections Administrator.
Tell us.
It was kind of a crazy day. It was a good day, though. I mean, I would call it a success. I think we had some tight races across the board, across the state. So, you know, turnout wasn't what I thought it was going to be, though. I was expecting a little bit more because of the contested races at the state level and the contention, but turnout was about exactly like it was 4 years ago,
Yep.
which was unexpected, but
Well, we appreciate your office. I mean, being over there and the setup to get there and
yeah.
then the day and now the consequences afterwards and what will go on since. So,
Well, we did blow early voting out of the water from 4 years ago, which I think is a trend that's going to continue to grow just because of it's convenient for people, but we'll always prepare for that.
okay, call for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we accept the canvassing of votes as presented.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
So we are going to have a request for a recount on that close race, and we'll receive that in just a few minutes, I believe. So we've already taken steps to be ready for that.
Yeah,
So-
we turned our cameras on in the office so that we're not live streaming, but we're filming everything that's just going into our network in case anything. But I think sheriff's going to come lock down our ballots according to the Attorney General will step in actually and take over the whole process. And so depending on what they decide, we're hoping that we can just swap out the locks on our vault door and leave everything in place. in the vault, which has a camera on it. That one's always running 24/7, but we've turned our other cameras on so that our office, that my office door, because I sit right next to the vault door, will be on all the time until the recount. So I'm hoping that because of the holiday weekend, we're shooting for Wednesday, the 1st, June 1st, to do the recount. But
It's up to the Attorney General.
it is
really.
kind of up, yeah, because they're in charge now.
So if you can't swap out the locks and leave the ballots where they're at, what's the process then?
They'll bring a trailer and haul everything, voted and unvoted ballots, to an evidence locker at the sheriff's office. Probably evidence tape all the boxes. We're just Ada County, because of their volume, that's how they handle it, with swapping out their vault lock door, so nobody has access to it except for the sheriff. And so Tony would be the only one to be able to access that. We're hoping that's the way it works. I always get a little bit nervous if I don't want our ballots out in the world. It's like, leave them right there, which seems to be the most secure and safest way to do it. But we'll see what the Attorney General says. And we have to have a representative from the Attorney General's office and the Secretary of State's office in our office. So that June 1st date is kind of up in the air, because I think from the sounds of it across the state, there's going to be some recounts. I think a lot of tight races across the state, so we're going to be dependent on their decisions and what they want to do. So we have to give up control to them, which I also don't appreciate.
Stress level high.
Yep.
And you got a camera on you all the time.
And I got a camera on me all the time. Yeah, I have to be so careful. Luckily, it's not audio. So.
Well, thank you.
All right, thanks,
you
guys.
very
much.
Thanks, Commissioner. I appreciate it.
All right. You're up. Scott isn't here, so it must be.
So one of our contract guys was not quite here, so.
Well, that's a no.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Annie Hughes with Bannock County Event Center Coordinator.
Jake Crump, Assistant Operations Manager.
I'm Nikki Jorgensen, we do SRD's haunt.
So Nikki is here. We would like to talk about a contract for Snake River Doodles Haunted Fairgrounds. They would like to use Building D on September 28th, tearing down on November 2nd to do a haunted fairgrounds. So they'd actually use the building in October on Fridays and Saturdays, with Bannock County splitting the net profits with them. And it looks like in 2020 they net profited about $11,500. So we would, if they profited that much at our event, we would get 50% of that. And do you want to tell me a little bit about it?
So this is our 7th year doing this. County actually contacted me to see if I wanted to come up here and do the this year. So, we would absolutely love to come up in there and do it. I usually hire kids from the local high schools, the drama kids. They come and have a great time every year. Our profits actually go to make it so that we can take our therapy animals to the nursing homes and hospitals every year. We have little horses and rabbits and dogs that we take. We would love to be able to do it.
And we would open concessions, and we would get 100% of concessions from any of the sales, for, like we do hot chocolate and something fun for the cold season.
So my only question is, last year we had the haunted
Science.
laboratory or something. Is this a competition with this? Is it?
Is
No,
it, yeah, is it in conflict because they're going on at the same time?
No, because he'll be in Building B,
Okay.
and it's during the school days, where she'll be on weekends.
Okay.
And that's the science laboratory.
Yeah,
so it's
Dr.
something
Shropshire.
totally different than, because they're going to use the stalls and do a whole haunted house in there. But there should not be a conflict.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
I know we just started that last year. And
Yeah.
I want to make sure. I'm actually not a real fan of the 50/50. I like a set fee, that this is what we do. I'm willing to try it.
I think you try it this year and then next year you figure it out and just say, hey, this is where it's at and go from there.
I'm happy with the 50/50.
Yeah.
I'm good with that, so.
Yeah. So I was willing to try it, so.
All right.
Motion?
Fun, come on, Ernie, we're gonna have fun.
Go ahead, Joe.
Oh, the fun isn't the part of it. It's, I want to know what dollars Bannock County's getting. This is the money.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the contract for Snake River Doodles Haunted Fairgrounds as presented.
Have a motion, all in favor say aye.
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 Okay, so while we're waiting, he should be here soon. Can we go over the bids, the quotes for our, I'm gonna let Jake do that part.
I can do that one. So we have two bids for a skid steer and a 1930 Genie man lift. Those two are gonna be mainly for like concert setup, amphitheater setup. Western States came in a little cheaper than PRB. And the only reason is there's a 5,000 pound forklift versus a 6,000 pound forklift, but these are the only ones available, and it took us a lot to find them, but they are available, ready to pick up as soon as it's approved. And we need them by Thursday.
We need him Thursday.
This concert's Friday.
Yeah.
So my only question on this
Come close.
is, we're doing this for the concerts.
Yes.
Who's operating the equipment?
So we will operate mainly, so that's actually us. So when we use the forklift for chairs, those like bike rack things, any unloading and loading we put up on down the stage, and then I think Go Out Local uses them sometimes for their equipment as well. We do have a form that we have to fill out. If they operate our equipment, they have to sign a form, a liability waiver for any tractor use. And then the 1930 will be, again, us and Go Out Local for if we do the pigeon net, speaker hang up and down, and then any setup that Go Out Local does.
They need to be trained on it.
That's my deal is, if Go Out,
I think
if
there's
this is for the concerts,
isn't
how
there
come Go Out Local isn't renting the equipment instead of Bannock County, and that should be
Well,
part
I
of
think
their deal?
I think the main discussion though last year though on I know on the lift was that there was no way to do maintenance up on it, just for these guys alone, and that's why they were talking about keeping it there year round. Or it's seasonal, you know what I mean, to have it there, because it's just not as the concerts, it was getting up there trying to,
Yes.
I think there was some light bulbs that Corey was trying to change,
yeah.
there was stuff like that, and they don't have any way to get up there, they'd have to go get a lift.
Yeah.
My thing is if there is a lift up there, see, Go Out Local isn't shielded under governmental agency, they have to have OSHA training to operate that. They can't just go operate, they just can't go plug in and do that. We are a governmental agency, so we're excluded from OSHA, but we still need to follow the best practices. We should still have, whoever's operating that should go through their certification of whatever it is to get it done. You're a Heistermeister, weren't you?
Yeah, I was a trainer
Yeah.
on both aerial and heisters. So I'm a little picky when we just turn things over. I mean, and I've seen when we was using the skid steer last year and the chairs went to the concrete instead of on the stage. So we just have to be safe.
Well, and I think that
Some instruction
I think
needs
with
to
a
happen.
heister, I would probably prefer, to tell you the truth, that one of your people that is trained is the only one that's operating that. I get real nervous with having people that don't, I mean, they say, oh, I know how to operate that, and you have they're 25 feet up in the air and they tip the thing over and they kill somebody,
When you get this signed, will you forward that to
Yeah.
Caitlin and myself so we can add it to insurance?
Okay.
And then when you return it?
Unless they have
same thing.
unless Go Out Local can show they have an OSHA certified and trained heister guy, and then they can operate it. But if they can't give you the certificate and show that person's off, then they shouldn't operate it.
I would agree with that.
If I may, you mentioned the liability form. If you could share that with my office, that would be great.
I think that's the same standard county liability release that we've been using.
Yeah.
And if it needs to be updated, that's,
Yeah, I just haven't seen it. And so
Oh, you have? Okay.
So I'd like to see it.
I'll email it to you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so
Western States Catlin, is that what you're asking for?
which
I would, my recommendation is the Western States. I don't think, so the 6,000 pounds is actually it's a true 9,000 pound. It's a huge forklift. I don't think we need to go that big. I
No.
think Western States is the better option.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the bid by Western States Cat as presented.
And then, yeah.
Okay.
So the next one is the Mini X. This actually is for the creek bed coming through down there. We just need to get on that so we can use that water.
Before we go there though, what about the Genie, the scissor lift?
Yeah.
So that's
That's
on this one?
Yes.
That has the other forklift on it?
Yes, it's the two-in-one.
But
rental.
we still need to rent the Genie lift, but the forklift from Western Cat.
So the forklift and the Genie comes from Western. It should be on the same. Yeah, 19-inch scissor.
Yeah, we approved that one. This is the other company that gave the bid.
So this was just 2 bids.
Oh, okay, there's.
We gave you multiple bids.
There's a scissor lift, I see it.
Yeah.
I didn't
Yep.
see it.
So they should come from the same.
So-
Everything should be the
Get a
same.
line through that one.
Yep.
Yep.
This one has both of them.
Yes.
Okay, now
Yes.
we're on the same page.
Oh, perfect. And then this one's just for the Mini X 2-foot bucket coming from PRB. They're the only one we can find that's available.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the Mini X as presented.
Got a motion, all in favor say aye.
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 Get that done. Hey, those fields are actually looking good. If we could just get the soccer kids to quit digging mud holes.
Manage them a little better.
Green.
Yeah, we've got it green and
The other one we put on hold till next week, the bike.
Yes, berries. We're gonna hold that one.
yes.
So should we just go on with the Idaho Interscholastic Cycling League? So I believe Scott said did come in front of commission prior to COVID about doing this up at the event center.
I don't think they did.
They would like to come in on the 29th of September and leave on October 2nd. The only thing they'd be using at our facility would be the grass area south of the event center soccer fields and the gravel parking lot. They would like to put up tents, and their contract, it looks like he says about 2,000 people may be there. They're going to bring in porta potties. The event will not be happening at the event center. They'll be using like McNabb's. They have some kind of a bike route they go on. They just want to use our facility
This is station area.
for the tenting. And the fee was $3,500. I believe that was agreed upon.
Okay.
Well, this is the standard that we're gonna start living by. 3,500? There you go.
Right. Then you have
Set
the
fee,
fee and it's set. If you guys have any questions, because it's pretty,
Does this interfere with Little League football at all? Because it's in that same time period.
so the football,
Do we have a contract with Little League football?
No, these guys are on the opposite
we
side.
do not.
Yeah.
Well, this is down on the soccer
So like
side.
that, like dirt, that's where they'll be, and then the parking lot behind us. So they shouldn't interfere with.
Yeah, they won't
interfere
be
with
on the
anything.
soccer fields or the football fields.
Okay, great. I just wanted to make sure, because
Yeah.
that gets crazy.
It does get
Yeah.
crazy.
Should we see a contract from Little League football
Yeah, I was gonna
anyway?
say, we do not have one signed as of yet.
Motion on this one?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the contract with Idaho Interscholastic Cycling League as presented.
We have a motion, all in favor say aye.
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 Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I'll get you that waiver.
Thanks.
Okay.
Email it.
Okay. Have a good day, guys.
Thank you.
All right, let's talk about the signatures. Come on up here. I'm sorry, they told me that you was real busy today. Find where you're at in my paperwork here. This is the parcel that we talked about last week.
Yeah, this is the This is,
Letter of cancellation.
yeah.
All right.
So is it, my main question was, is it just says Native American, this mobile home went to the sheriff's cell. I don't know what that means.
So it was a delinquent mobile home, so it got turned to the sheriff for collection. And then the lady came in and said, I'm supposed to be exempt, blah, blah, blah. So we pulled it from the sheriff's cell because we figured, just like our tax deeds, we better not sell it now until we get this figured out. So then we gave it to the assessor's office, and you did have the exemption for it, correct?
Well, I have her driver's license, what they do to turn in to us
Well,
as a Native American.
but is it owned by the tribe, or is it owned by an individual? If it's owned by an individual, it doesn't classify as a Native American. The law is very specific. If you are not held in tribal trust, it's an individual property. There is no property tax exemption, and we do not have the authority or the ability under the law to do that. And any one of those that's in that office, every single one of those that is given an exemption to an individual just because they are a Native American is illegal. I don't know how many more times I have to say that. Any one of those things, if it is owned by an individual, is illegal, and the county does not have the authorization to do that. I'm ready to just sue the county over it, because why should I have to pay my taxes? Because we're going to give an exemption that doesn't have the authority under state law for us to give. We are acting outside the scope of the law. I don't know how many more times I can say that. It's now I'm just to the point, filters off. Any one of these exemptions should be turned into the Attorney General's office for a reason of why are we not collecting taxes. I mean, this is a straight up violation of the law. I don't know what Henry says. Well, it's difficult. Well, I know it's difficult, but that's not what the law says. The law says if it's owned by the tribe, which means it has to be held in tribal trust under the Department of Indian Affairs, which is ministered by the federal government. That's what that means. If that's what this is, then they can qualify for the exemption. If it's some lady that just so happens to be a member of some random tribe or even the Shoshone Bannocks, I don't care. The law does not say that they get that. They pay taxes.
Okay.
And if they want to yell, give them my phone number. I'll gladly have a conversation with them.
Well, this is just like some of the others that we've talked about. We just went through and we're taxing some now that we haven't taxed in the past, that submitted
Have we done that?
applications.
Have we gone back and added those on?
No, these need to be added on, like immediately.
No, I'm saying that the ones that we just signed, the tax exempt ones, we just finished up yesterday.
Right, on the
Yeah.
one.
And we're requesting people pay taxes on some that in the past was just kind of went away.
And so this is the whole problem, is there's a whole bunch of parcels over there I can guarantee that people aren't paying taxes on because they just claim, well, I'm a Native American, I don't have to pay taxes. That's not correct. That is not what the state law says. There's been rulings on this by the state Supreme Court. It is absolutely illegal for the county to do this. I don't know what else to say other than that. So we need to have any one of these that has an exemption on this, it's illegal. It needs to go back and it has to be done. The commission doesn't have the authorization to suspend this. We're a Dillon's Rule state. Dillon's Rule state says we can only do what the state law has given us the authority to do. I don't have an exemption that this fits under for us to be able to do this. That's why one of the reasons tax burden in Bannock County, if you look at it, is there's a whole bunch of parcels on the north end that don't pay taxes, and they should be paying taxes. And if they don't want to pay taxes, that is ground that is not part of the reservation and not part of Bureau of Indian Affairs purview. It will be taken and it will be sold then just like any other piece of dirt. Get back to the sheriff, let him sell it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
And Anita, you'll be good. You'll be good.
Thanks.
Resolutions. Resolution number 2022-31, declaration of drought emergency. We had one the other day, we signed, had some verbiage in it that we've changed. Resolution number 2022-33, authorizing issuance of tax deed to Bannock County on property for unpaid taxes. And resolution number 2022-34, approving tax cancellation requests.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve, let's see here, where did they go? My mouse just went nuts. Hold on one second. I move that we approve the resolutions as presented, excluding, yes, just 3-1 and, yes, 3-1 and 3-3.
We have on 3-4.
No, 3-4 is a tax cancellation request that was pulled. Which one is it?
Cancellation.
That's the mobile home.
That's the one that we just,
Mobile home is missing.
No, that's let's make sure it's not the same ones. Yeah, we're just making sure that it's not that same parcel number. Ends in
Yeah, so
1600.
3-4 should be on there.
Okay. Yep, so, and 3-4.
all right.
So I'll call for a vote on that one.
Yes, please. Call for a motion.
He gave
Can
the
you make
motion.
it?
Yeah.
A vote, yeah. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Well, I'm here, somewhere. Okay, we just talked about a request for cancellation. Next, we have the proclamation for Memorial Day. Field of Heroes proclamation.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the proclamation as presented.
I have a motion. All in favor, say, what's this?
Braden just handed that up to me.
It's just a service letter award for Melissa's volunteers.
Oh,
She's asked to get that you guys sign it.
okay.
Took it back to,
Yeah, you can do that.
Thank you.
Okay, did we get a motion on that one?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the proclamation and letters of support as presented.
Have a motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, next we have April 2022 Commissioners Proceedings.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the proceedings and do minutes as well.
Yeah, they're done in the consent
Oh,
agenda.
okay. Just proceedings.
We have a motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We have a letter of cancellation for
that's the.
services on the ambulance.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the letter of cancellation to medical recovery services.
We have a motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And we have from the Sheriff's Office, Southeast Idaho, Firefighting Assistance Agreement.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the reciprocal firefighting assistance agreement as presented.
We have a motion, all in favor say aye.
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 Next, we have a vendor agreement for the Independence Day with Nugget CBD.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the vendor agreement as presented.
Have a motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have the consent agenda. There is residency denial, come in late. There is minutes from May 17th.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
And just one more, there's a salary rate approval form.
And salary rate approval forms as presented.
We have a motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. With that being said, we'll be at recess till 2:30.